Okay, good evening, everybody, and I'm Paul Michele from Navionics, and welcome to a Navionics CETO webinar. All of you that are here were invited as CETO members, so thank you for taking time out here on a Wednesday night to join me and talk a little bit about boating safety. What I'm going to do here during this webinar is I'm going to turn on share screen here so that I can show everybody the presentation. We'll go through that for about 30-40 minutes. At the end, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer as many as I can within the hour. There is, as you notice down there, there is a little Q&A. By all means, if you've got a question, go ahead and click on the Q&A and type it in. I will try to answer as many as I can, but kind of keep the chatter to that to a minimum, as it is a lot to go through towards the end of the webinar. So without further ado, let me jump on here and share my screen with all of you, and we'll talk a little bit about safer boating. Okay, so again, everyone, this is welcome to tonight's webinar. It's reading a chart for safer boating, and again, this is brought to you through Navionics and CETO. I know most of you have boats, and you should be fairly familiar with who Navionics is, but just a very quick little recap. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, this webinar is being recorded, so anything you want to come back and review later, we will have a link on the CETO website. You are more than welcome to go back at the end of this, give us a few days to upload, and review the topics on hand. So who is Navionics? Now, Navionics is a two-man show started back in 1984, actually. We're a diverse team. We operate actually all over the world. We employ over 500 enthusiastic people, a lot located in the US, Italy, and India, but we have sales all over the world. Now, one of the things that makes Navionics different is that we are all outdoors people. We all ski, we fish, we boat, we sail, we cruise. We do all the things that everybody here does. I've got a bunch of, let me just see here, make sure there's nothing going on. Bear with me, everyone. Just lost sound. Nope. Okay, looks like there's just comments. Sorry. So anyway, we are all boaters, sailors, fishermen, skiers. We enjoy being outdoors. So it's not just what we do, but it's our passion. And as somebody mentioned earlier, as far as apps, we're now over 4 million apps sold. It's the #1 navigation app. So that's who Navionics is. We do the marine and fishing charts. So why are we here tonight? And obviously this is a simple one. We're here to talk about, no one wants this. No one wants damaged props. Nobody wants to run their boat up on the sandbar, unless of course you're pulling up there to run the blender and have a sandbar party. Nobody wants to run into a buoy, and certainly nobody wants the one on the bottom right. So a lot of questions we get is about, how do we read a chart? What are these icons? How do I get out on the water and enjoy my day, especially in areas that I may not be familiar with? So how do we boat safely? Now, what I'm going to talk about a little tonight, again, I'm going to answer questions at the end of this. We'll save at least a good 20 minutes. And our topics are really going to be, these are the ones that I seem to get the most questions on. And that is, what are these icons? How do I update a chart and the value? Chart selections, what are map options to help me boat safer? How do I read a chart? Dock-to-dock auto routing, improving a chart, and the use of satellite overlay. All these things will help you be a safer boater and enjoy more time on the water. So most popular one are, what are these icons that I see, on my screen? And one of the easiest ways I can tell you to go back and review this, aside from doing a bunch of screenshots, is go ahead and download the Navionics app. You've got if you look to do a community edit, and we'll talk about that a little later, all of these icons appear. These icons are the same whether it's on our web app, on our charts, or on mobile. But you see here, this in particular, hazardous icons. Rocks that are always dry. You've got rocks under cover, rocks underwater, bottom obstructions, pylons, wing dams, emerging wrecks. So these are all the icons that are hazardous. These are things, obviously, you want to avoid. We also have icons on the charts that are information. Again, I encourage all of you to go ahead and look on the app itself, but these are text notes. Text notes, you click on that, it's information that people have written. Fishing spots, we do have some of those out there, and some people are willing to share. Diving spots, water turbulence, water access. Of course, we have all the buoys. Buoys are important, obviously. Left leaving, right returning, for those of you that remember that old rhyme. So keep the right on the right, or when you're looking at the red buoy, left leave, right return. So there's all your buoys. You've got your moorings, which are always out around the sailboats you want to avoid. Those are on our charts. Beacons and signs, simple enough. These include your no wake zones, which would be listed under a special purpose. And of course, points of interest, restaurants, bars, nobody ever looks for those on the water. Dive shop, fishing equipment, engine retailers, and of course we have gas stations as well. All these are icons that are on our charts. Again, probably the most popular question is, what are all the different icons? These are some of them as we went through. And of course, icon services, whether you're looking at a fuel station, your docks, harbor masters, you're pulling into a marina, you can click on the harbor master, find out their VHF signal, find out what their phone number is, if they have transient docks, if they have fuel, all that information when you're looking for when you're out there boating or sailing and you're trying to find more information about a local marina. Now, as far as updating charts, updates are important. We do updates online to 20,000 updates a week, whether you want to update your current chart or you're buying a Navionics update. How that works, and I chose this area in particular because Navionics America's headquarters is actually located in Wareham near Cape Cod. So I chose this area, and I'm going to use this for a lot of examples here to describe how you can boat safer and some of the tricks to use depending on your plotter and if you're using the apps to look at your boating and how to make it safer when you're running and taking a look at contours and staying in those areas. This right here is a screenshot of downloading an area. Now, whether you're on the mobile app or you're on updating a chart, you're able to draw a box, and on that box you can download as much as you want or different areas, and this then refreshes that area, whereas what we call a freshest data, gives you new updates for that, turns in white, and that updates your area. Now that's regardless if you're using our app or if you're doing it online or if you're doing through Plotter Sync. Plotter Sync is where you connect our app to your plotter and actually update charts that way. On the app, and what you need to understand about updating charts is this area here is often an area called manatee. And the government chart here, or an embedded chart, many people buy plotters and has a chart on it. Well, as you know, the government's not really doing any more soundings. And once you have an embedded chart on your plotter, pretty much all you have. You don't know if it's from a year ago or 10 years ago. It can make you question a little bit where you're going. Now, as you look, you can see the green arrow. That green arrow I specifically pointed there because this is now the latest government chart for manatee. And this area right here, I specifically highlighted as this changed back when Sandy came through. So that's now, 4 or 5 years ago? So this same area now is your Navionics chart. So you can see that this changed. This is the importance of updating a chart, is you want to make sure you have the latest data. So in this case here, not only is there a new pass-through, but you've also got new drying areas and potentially land. Not an area you definitely want to run at nighttime. So that's your government chart to your Navionics chart. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but this is the sonar chart. And again, I still have the arrows there. The sonar chart is our 1 foot contours. If you're fishing or you're very concerned on contours, this gets down to 1 foot inshore, and you can really get the most of your charting when you're trying to dial in exactly how deep you want to be or where you're looking at ledges and holes. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So let's talk about how to make it safer on the water. One of the features that we offer on the app and that we have on plotters is what we call the shallow area mode. Now I've got that highlighted down to the left. You can see with the green arrow. What that does is you can set that to highlight in the red dots shallow areas. When you highlight that anywhere, for example, here we've got it set at 12 feet. Anything 12 feet or less has those red dots. So don't go in this area. That can be done at any depth from a foot all the way to 30 feet. That is a very simple way to avoid shallow water and keep your boat in the depth that you need it to be. Depth highlight. Now the depth highlight, again, using green arrows, excuse me, I've got on the left, you can see I highlighted, which we also call fishing range, is 13 to 31 feet. What that does, again, if you're not familiar with an area or you've got a new boater, highlights everything in white. So you look at that arrow off to the right here, everything now that is in that 13 to 31 foot range is in white. So if I stay in that white area, I know I'm safe. I've got the best opportunity to keep my boat in the deepest water that I need to not run aground and to be safe on the water. You can also use it for fishing. And I changed it here to 19 to 33 feet, a little closer to the beach. And let's say, for example, those of you I saw that signed on here from Florida, we're coming up into cobia season. Those cobia happen to be running in that depth. you can turn around and highlight your chart in whatever depth they be running, in this case 19 to 33 feet, and stay in the white and know that you're in that right depth for whatever that species is you're looking to catch. Of course, it can highlight lumps and everything else. So you can use the fishing range for not only just fishing, but also to boat in a safe area that's best set for your boat settings. Water level adjustment. Now, this isn't so much for us in saltwater. Of course, we can use it where you've got dramatic tides, but this is only on our app at this time. Now, the water level adjustments help you if your lake levels are down. Let's say you're in freshwater and there's dramatic rises or a lot of water that's dropped, a decrease in water, which a lot of us have right now. How that works is I've got it set, for example, here on the water level. You can see on the green, the same area we've been looking at off Monami at 11 feet high. So what that did, it put all the water up, it took out some of the land, it changed contours, and it changed the spot soundings. So if you're on a waterway that you know the water is high, whether it's a river or a lake or you're worried about strong flood tides, you can change this. Now again, this is only on the app, but this does allow you to change the water levels. And in a reverse, you can go 10 feet low. Now 10 feet down on the water level, you saw the change here. We went from a lot of water up to a lot of yellow, which is a lot of land. So obviously we hope this never happens at Monami, but you get the idea of this, again, can help you, make sure that you're in the right depths for where you're boating and fishing. Drying areas. A lot of the green that's on our charts, people seem to think that's seabeds. It's not always seabeds. These are considered drying areas. And this, generally speaking, is where most of the people that run aground happen to have that problem. So you can see there's a few fishing icons here and some markers and so forth. But all of this green that you see is a drying area. On high tide, and this particular area, this is where I live actually down here near Stewart, this is underwater. Low tide, this is a big sandbar, and you may not see it. So it could be 3 feet deep at high tide, but if you're in the back flats and you're coming out later and its tide's dropping, you're gonna have a hard time getting out of there. So the green on the charts indicates drying areas. These are areas that usually come out of water and you want to avoid, obviously, depending on the draft of your boat, at high tide or especially at low. See a lot of hands being raised. Bear with me 1 second here. I just want to make sure that we don't have any, hang on a second. We don't have any issues at the moment here. Nope, okay, just questions. Just wanted to double check. All right, getting back to it here. So we talked about drying areas. Let's talk about the importance of having updated information. And we went through this a little bit, but again, this is down my area of the world here at Stewart and the St. Lucie Inlet. So in this particular two examples, you've got on the left, St. Lucie Inlet was actually just dredged about a year ago. So on the left is what the government data shows. And to the right is actually, and I realize this is not zoomed in, but I wanted to do a direct comparison, is our sonar chart. This is where people have recorded logs, shared them with Navionics, or we've got the latest information. So you can see a big difference on left on where the heck am I going, to the right where you've got contours. And if you highlight those contours, or of course you stay within the buoys, this gives you the opportunity to have the most available data to not only just fish, but again, especially if you're going somewhere you don't know, to be able to boat safely and do what you want to do. Let's talk a little bit about reading a chart. I could spend pretty much all night just on this topic, so I chose some of the very basics to run through a little bit. This in particular here is a ledge. Now, this relates really more to fishing than a boating safety, but it's still important to know when you're looking at a chart. Anywhere you see that green arrow, anywhere those contours get very tight like that, that indicates that there's a steep drop or a steep rise. The darker that line, the steeper the drop. So as you can see, the contours are a little far out. Well, as they get closer together on that line, obviously that's the ledge, that's your steep drop off. So those of you online that are interested in fishing, this is obviously a major fishing area to take a look at with the ledge. Fish will stack up on it, bait, etc. Those of you that are sayling and cruising, you'll see why the ledge is a little more important later, but certainly you know that on one side of that ledge or the other is deep water or shallow. So you want to make sure you're on the right side of the ledge. In this case, you can see to the right, we've got 32-foot depths. On the left, it comes all the way up to 18. Now, don't think anybody here has an 18-foot draft. If you do, please send me your email. I'd like to go boating with you. If you do not, most of us would be okay on this, but it gives you the idea of make sure you're on the right side of the ledge. Contours, rises or lumps. Now again, here we've got where the arrow is pointing. This is a lump. Now it could very well easily be a hole as well, which will show another example of that. But when you see those contours start coming together and up, you want to look at those spot soundings. In this case here, we're coming out of 24 foot of water, and we're coming up to 15. Now again, most where people may not be boating, and we're going to get to sandbars here in a minute, but this is educational as to how to read that chart. So when you see these kind of things, you want to look at that anomaly and go, okay, what is that I'm looking at? Each line equals 1 foot. You can see the ledge slowly coming up, and you can see on top of the spot sounding that this is 15 feet. The outside area there's a 17-foot lump, and it drops all the way to 26. So again, you want to stay on the correct side of that for what your boat draft is, or if you're fishing, you might want to be right on that lump. Contours and points, where the arrow is showing this is a point that extends. Again, looking at sandbars and those kind of things, or fishing, you want to know where those points stick out. So if you're coming in at high speed, you're running your boat, and that little sandbar sticks out just a little bit, you want to make sure that you're not running onto that sandbar's point. And that's what a point looks like. It's no different than, if you're staring at curve. It's just a little bend that comes out, and those contours form that. So if you're looking at that and you kind of visualize, okay, that's the little point, again, knowing which side of the ledge to be on is very important. Now here's our favorite, is the sandbar. And I'm sure nobody's ever used Sea-Tow for sandbars. This one right here happens to be sitting off the edge of a channel. You can see along the right-hand side, we got a nice 25-foot channel, no problem, scooting along. A little too far to the right or on the green side of the buoy, if you're not paying attention, you got a 2-foot sandbar. So these areas show up in dark blue. Again, you can change this with your settings on your plotters to whatever. You can highlight it. You can put on that shallow water. If you say, hey, I want to stay out of 5 feet, you're going to know that's red. You're going to know stay off that sandbar. But if you're boating, these are the things to watch out for. When you see those, again, those anomalies that come up, it's a hole or it's a lump. And when you look at this, you say it's 2 foot and it's right on the edge of the channel. Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be stuck on 2 foot. Your draft could be 6 and you're hitting 4 or 5 because you're just that little bit out of the channel. So this is what you want to look for when you're looking for sandbars. One of the most important things that I find, at least down here in Florida, are, and everywhere really, is shoals. But down here we've got the manatees and a lot of speed zones. On our charts, and if we do have West Coast people, we do have also fishing zones, which are becoming more and more prolific, unfortunately. So here you've got the red arrow off to the upper left. This is, again, showing a drying area where you've got a shoal. Running along the main channel, you've got a lot of shoals right there you need to watch out for. There's a couple right along, if you're headed south, there's right a couple on the left that are very close to the channel. So again, this is highlighted in green on our charts to really make that stand out to avoid it. Well, you look to the bottom here, on the bottom 2 arrows, we have on our charts the manatee or speed zones, or if you're on the West Coast, fishing zones, which do have little boxed areas around them. You look at that, you can see manatee zone, 25 mile per hour, January 1 through December 31st. Or if you look down below, slow speed all year, Jan 1 through December 31st for manatee zones. This obviously in itself, depending on who pulls you over, it could be an $89 fine, it could be a $300 fine, whether it's the local sheriff or if it's federal. So we do label all these on our charts. Very important to read all the little things. You've got pipes you can read that explain what they are. And again, not just contours, but we do add a lot of items on there in text to help you better understand what's in that area. And these get updated all the time as we get new information. So we talked a moment ago about holes. This example here, we've got the black area, or black arrow, excuse me. This is showing a deeper hole. So we showed lumps before. This is now looks similar to a lump, but you look at the contour and it's dropping down to 18 feet. Now, why is this important? One, fishing. We want to fish into deeper holes depending on the tide or where the fish may lie. Again, do we want to make sure that we're in the proper depth when we're boating? Or if you're a sailboater and you want to have a mooring area, you want to make sure that you've got enough depth for your sailboat. You want to overnight. Perhaps it's poor weather. You want to make sure your boat's safe. These are important things to look at. You want to make sure that where your boat's anchored or moored, you've got enough water to keep you safe. There's 2 little arrows up top here. You can see the little buoys that have plus marks. Now these are called community edits. Now what's important about a community edit, I'm going to show you a few more, is this is done, again, through the Navionics app. This is where our community of over 4 million people can go ahead and add icons to our chart that may have just changed, whether it's a buoy that's moved, if it's a new marina, if it's a, God forbid, a ship that has gone down. In fact, the Concordia, many of you may remember that, there were actually, I want to say something like 500 community edits in the first 10 minutes or something silly like that. But this is where local knowledge comes into play, where it gets added to the app and then transferred over to the chart through updates. Now those updates could be, again, here you've got a fishing area over by Bessie Cove, and you've got a dive location here out to the right. So there are other icons besides buoys, but it's information that you're willing to share with others. Now, very quickly, a popular question before someone asks is, how do we know nobody screws with this and puts up a bunch of stuff that doesn't exist? I will tell you, out of those 4 million plus users, we've had to ban 3 people. So there is the ability for the community to remove items if they're not there, and there's the ability to report people if they're not doing the right thing, and we can wipe out everything they've done. But in now 8 years, I guess, of our app, we've had to ban 3 people. So people take this very serious because they realize they want to be on the water, they want to enjoy their time, and they want to make sure everybody's safe and having fun out there. So community edit change is one other aspect, and I want to just point that out real quick. If you look to the green buoys, you've got on the bottom left here, you've got the red arrow showing the old buoy. The one to the right, just above it in green, is the new one. And what you notice is that plus sign. Plus shows that it was added as a community edit. To the right, you've got your 2 red buoys. You see this, the lower red arrow has a little minus on that buoy. That minus indicates that was the old location. We don't remove that buoy until we can verify that that truly is a 100% change. So we do leave it on there, but we put a minus on it. And then the new buoy is added with a plus. Again, this is through a community edit because buoys do move all the time, especially with storms or if they're doing some dredging. So this is a community edit. It shows on plotters. You just have to highlight that on your feature. And again, makes it a better opportunity to know where you're going and stay within those buoys. And I mentioned how many edits. We actually get about 10,000 edits per week. And that's worldwide that we're getting those. And it's just a quick example of how many edits in the last map we ran up on this. So one other thing we've launched on our app, and this is if you're still not sure how to get from point A to point B, is our dock-to-dock auto routing. This feature here allows the boater to, go to new areas you're not familiar with. If you want to see how much fuel you're going to burn, perhaps there's a safer way to go. What this does is really it's a point and click on our app. You're able to touch one location, touch another when you click on route, you can click on route, and it goes from your start point to your end, and it will automatically, based on your boat settings, draw you the best route. In this case, I used, again, near my home waters here in St. Lucie, and this drew a auto route to where I wanted to go. Now, one of the things I want to point out is, okay, yeah, it based my boat settings, it took me through, but it also gives you little warnings. So for example, as you follow it down on the red that you saw earlier, you can see little hazard markers. That indicates things to be aware of based on your settings. So for this example, there's a bridge check clearance. So if you've got a tall mast on your sailboat, or you've got a large vessel, a yacht, and you're going through, you want to make sure that you're looking at that to check clearance, make sure you need to call the bridge master, raise the bridge, or just make sure it's a safe way for you to go. And again, a lot of that is covered in your settings. Shallow water was another one that came up. My boat settings, my boat runs in 3 foot, but it's still letting me know, hey, some of this area is pretty close. You might want to watch when you're running here and just pay attention to the contours, pay attention to your depth finder, and make sure that you're staying in the deeper water. So it does alert you of things to be aware of, not just point A to point B. So again, this is kind of the easiest way. If you're just not sure, dock to dock, get you where you want to go. And then as you're doing that, look at your contours, understand the area, figure out lumps, sandbars, drying areas, all the things that we've talked about to understand what you're looking at on a chart. One question I get is value of overlays. We do have, for those of you that can run it, is the Platinum chart. This is where we put satellite overlay. How this works is, you can see on the left is our standard chart, on the right is satellite overlay. This gives you the ability for, if you've had a house that's up in the canals, for example, you want it to run up into those canals and see where you're going. Obviously the right these are not considered navigable waters, but through sonar charting and logging, which we'll talk very briefly about in a moment, you can map these areas and get new information. But the one that I like in particular is one on the bottom right here at the Alafai River, and I'm going to show you one more slide in addition to this. But it does open up waterways that maybe you would not know were there, especially in the back marshes. Where I like to use the satellite overlay in particular is shading it down. So what that does on your plotter, if you go to your satellite overlay with land and water, or you can choose land and shallow water, you can put it on, make sure that it's not just on land, but it's over the sea as well. Shade it down a little bit. When you shade it, you can see the contours that appear through that satellite overlay. So not only now can you, see some of the underwater reefs that maybe we have, or highlight the sandbars, but you have the contours that match up to it. So now you can actually really get a better picture of what's under the water as you're boating or fishing. You can see, yep, that really is a ledge. I see the water getting darker. Or hey, here's a little shallow sandbar area, and yep, it matches the contour. It helps you understand in a more visual way of where you're boating, where you're fishing, and just adds just one extra step to your charting. Helps you see a little bit of everything. So again, that's if you look at your plotter under your chart options, you can go and you can take the transparency is what we call it on, I think, just about every plotter now, transparency, and shade that down. And especially if you turn on the sonar chart layer under your chart options. So chart options, sonar chart layer, chart options, view, satellite view, land and water, and then you can shade that down with the transparency. This just gives you just that extra oomph on charting. So I mentioned very quickly about improving your local data. SonarCharts Live, this has now been available on our app for the use of Vexilar or NMEA. It's been on Ray Marine on the plotter itself, and you'll also see it coming out now on some of the Lowrance units. This is the ability as you're boating along to actually draw charts live on your plotter. So if you have a new area you're not sure about, obviously you've got your depth finder, but this helps you map an area. For some of you that may live on a canal or up in a marsh or creek and you're curious on what this area looks like, or a lake, you'll be able to do this through SonarCharts Live. There's more information on that on our web, but it does help you, again, understand what an area looks like. So I actually did pretty good. I'm usually long-winded. I made this in 30 minutes. I've learned that if I go too far back, too far beyond that, I start to lose people. So at this point, I do want to open it up to questions. This is generally what the questions are that I get on how to read a chart and to be a little safer out there and how to find fishing holes and everything else. So again, this is recorded. You can look at it again on the CTO or Navionics website. I'm going to go to questions and answers now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen a moment. And I'm going to go to questions and answers now and try to address as many as I can. So I've got Joe Collins here asking, why does the Navionics Plus chip not the same as the web version has better info than the chip? Joe, to answer your question, most likely it is, I'm going to close that one out. The Navionics Plus, everything that's on our app is exactly the same as what's on the chart and the mobile app. What you may be seeing is you did not download possibly the SonarChart layer. So if you update your Navionics Plus chart and highlight on the computer, highlight that area that you want, then when you're on your plotter, go to your chart options and select SonarChart, or if you have an older software version, Fish and Chip. That will then be the same that's on our web. There should be no difference in any of the charts or mobile apps or the web app. So my guess is that it's probably not updated or that you've got to turn on Fish and Chip. If you're still having issues, please email us at help@navionics.com and we can walk you through. Okay, Ed had a problem with sound. Hopefully he got that fixed. Are charts based on low tide? Amaris, yes, charts are based on mean low tide. So even with the logs that you record, if you're contributing to SonarCharts, SonarChart or SonarChart Live, we actually you'll have the option of recording the closest tide station. So we're able to take that time and coordinate it with your GPS and your depth and be able to give you the mean low tide. So anything we then launch that we come out with an update on the charts are done at mean low tide. Same question again. Kevin wants to know if the app will work out of cell range. Kevin, the answer to that is yes. We have numerous stories of people that have had boats struck by lightning, or their power went out, or they lost the plotter, and have come in from very far distances In fact, one of our specialists, Jessica Anderson, who's done quite a few sailing webinars for us, she actually used her iPad to navigate the Bahamas, solely using just the app. Now, the one trick to that, Kevin, is that you must download the area first. If you have an iPad version 1, they do not have this GPS plan on it, so you do need an iPad 2 or later, but the mobile phones do have GPS. So as long as you've downloaded that, you've got that information already on your phone. Once you're out of cell service, it now connects via GPS, and then from that GPS, it then works. It will show your position and so forth. But if you have not downloaded the area before, will it work? Yes. Will you see map data? No. Okay, in regards to Craig, in regards to the icons, I noticed one that looks like a bird and pink. Sorry, Craig, I had to laugh. So it's kind of like a Nintendo game. We give you a little gun that comes when you buy one of our special charts, and you can shoot those birds off of the plotter, just like Duck Hunt. No, highly, or often popular question. So those pink ducks actually indicate two things. One, they're an old watermark, and obviously you see that on the marine area. Two, it's actually, some of that is old marine estuary data. They're very far embedded on the chart, so it's not exactly an easy thing for us to take out. If they really annoy you, go under your chart settings and go to restricted areas and turn that off. Now, I warn you, if you turn off restricted areas, of course, you're going to turn off the manatee zones and you're going to turn off, government areas, but that will remove the pink ducks. Does Navionics work with Garmin? Ed wants to know. Unfortunately, Ed, it does not at this point in time. We're always in talks with Garmin, but as of today, Navionics does not work with Garmin. The interesting part, though, is we get a lot of logs from Garmin users that use our app. So you can record logs with your Garmin and then submit it to us through your website, update charts, and then be able to get that newest data on your Navionics app. But actually, a chart in Garmin, not as of today. Bob asked, brand new Navionics chip and Hummingbird plotter. None of these icons or colors appear. Bob, I don't know what plotter you've got. This sounds like more of a technical question. The icon should be there. It very well may be a setting on the Hummingbird that we need to turn on. I'm going to ask that you email help@navionics.com and let them know that, and they will be able to call you on your cell phone while you're in front of your plotter and run you through it. My guess is it's some settings that are not turned on. Sometimes on the Hummingbird you do have to turn different items on, but they all should be there, with the exception of community edits. Community edits do not work on the Hummingbirds as of today. Does Navionics charts updated for Puerto Rico? Alfredo, yes, we do have. I can't say the last time it was updated. Again, we do 20,000 updates a week. Puerto Rico, from my understanding, and I've not personally been there, but from boats I know, we do have some of the best data for Puerto Rico. If anybody here is going to Cuba, we have the best data for Cuba. So Puerto Rico, we do have good fishing data there and navigation data. Again, if you're living in Puerto Rico, you're more than welcome to record logs. And of course, we'll update charts and get you new information. But my understanding is the data in Puerto Rico is very good. Debbie, can you help us understand how to use the wind arrows work on the app? There's also what I think is the water level marker. Okay, so two questions from Debbie. So the wind arrow, with the wind, that is just showing when you zoom out and you can put it in action. The arrows are showing the direction the wind is coming from. So obviously the fatter and the bolder the arrow is, the stronger the wind. As far as the water level marker, that goes back to my earlier PowerPoint screenshot, where under the fishing, well, it's two things. On the app itself, under the fishing, under the fishing, you turn that on, it opens up more options. Under shallow water, or water level, as you pointed out, under water level, you can adjust that up or down. When that happens, pay attention to your chart and you'll see the contours, the spot soundings, everything change. On your plotter, there is a software release coming out for Lowrance in the next, hopefully in the very next short while, currently already on Ray Marine, that you go under your settings under Ray Marine and you can change your depth highlights. We do not have the water level offset on those yet. On any of the plotters, it is only the app. But where that comes, where it becomes helpful, again, as I mentioned, is if you're looking on lakes and you're looking for areas of, the lake is down 20 feet or 50 feet in some cases on the West Coast, you drop that down, it'll highlight sandbars, it'll highlight rocks, it'll highlight points, and just makes the map a little more accurate as far as where you need to go or to avoid. Because a point may be 50 feet underwater, that water level drops 40, well now it's only 10 under. So you want to make sure you're avoiding that if you need an 11-foot draft. Barry, well done. Thank you, Barry. Platinum hot maps. Why can't I see depth? I can see contour lines, but not depth. Your help desk says not to use SonarChart for navigation. How come? Okay, multiple questions from Barry. So you can see contour lines, not depth. One, make sure that your spot soundings are turned on. One of the things on the SonarChart is sometimes with the contours, it's very difficult to put spot soundings on every single area or the map would just get uber cluttered. So a lot of times if you're in an area where there's a lot of contours, the spot soundings are staggered, or in other areas, we may not have spot soundings on all the contours because it's just too much. It might be a little further down. So you might see 20 foot and then 25 and then 40, something like that. Again, I would suggest going to the SonarChart and maybe highlighting that, my brain's starting to go here, our water depth highlight so that you can put that in white. They say don't use it for navigation. Reason they say that is some of the plotters show buoys with it, some do not. And again, the official charts are the nautical charts, which is the navigation one. But the SonarCharts, my phone's ringing. The SonarCharts are logs that are submitted. And of course, we want to make sure they're as accurate as possible. And it's just legally, that's what we put on the SonarChart. I can't really get more into that, but that is their stance they have to use because we need to process it and make sure that it's the most accurate possible. Tom, if I'm using the smartphone app, do I need to have an active data connection to get Autoroute title info and other info? So you do need to make sure that you can always access tides. Tides are part of the app. But as far as a dock-to-dock Autoroute, no, you do need to make sure that your subscription is active on the app. In other words, you'll see the Navionics Plus pop up. The Navionics Plus is our renewal. It is half of what the app costs. So you can renew that at your leisure if you've used it through the summer. Of course, we want you to access it now so you can update your charts and plan. But you have the ability, if you miss it by a day, don't panic. You didn't ruin it. You could, 2 days after, you can renew it again. But you do have to have the Navionics Plus feature active to download new areas, update your charts, use dock-to-dock auto routing, use plotter sync. So some of the features you do need on there, but the good news is it is only half price from the original purchase of the app. When navigating a route, the compass seems to want to keep reverting to north up. Why? Another popular question. Double tap on, and this comes from Carl. So double tap on the icon. In other words, what that's going to do, it's then going to show like a little window like this. It's going to look like a reverse triangle. If you double tap on that, that's then going to give you an indication of where your boat's heading. So you're not always north up. It'll open up that triangle and it'll shift based on that on where you're going. So double tap, reverse triangle on white, it'll give you a better indication instead of just north up. Ozzy wants to know, what is the cost for your service? Ozzy, when you first buy a chart, you get a free year of Navionics freshest data. You can update the chart every day if you want. Same thing with the app. When you buy the app, you have 1 year of using all the features and updating anything you need. After a year on the app, it's half price. It'll pop up and remind you. On our charts, it is $99 for an update. Platinum charts are 50%. So depending on what size chart you have, most of them here in the USA would be $99. Depending on your chart, it could be more. Different countries have different regulations that we have to abide by with royalties and such, so it is a little bit higher. But generally speaking, you can just say it's half off of what you originally purchased. Richard, what types of chart plotters can use the live feature? Richard, as of today, Raymarine can currently use it. All the Raymarine plotters, I believe you could say within the last 5 years. The E Classic and the C Classic do not, but I believe any of the ESs, got to double check myself on the wides, but any of the more, I think in the last 5 years, it's safe to say on Ray Marine, that will be directly on the plotter. Vexilar is you can actually use on the app. Some of the Lowrance units, if you've got a Go Free, you can use with the app. And then Lowrance is, or I should say Lowrance and Simrad is launching software in the next short while that will allow you to do it on Navico units as well. So Lowrance and some Simrad units will also have it. So Lowrance, Simrad, and Ray Marine's had it for a while. All of those, and of course Vexilar through our app. Will Navionics work with Garmin chart plotters? John, as I'd mentioned earlier, unfortunately not as of today. But feel free to email Garmin and let them know you'd like to run Navionics. Every little bit helps. We want to make sure the consumers get what they need. Are the government maps up to date and as accurate as SonarChart? Mark, so in case you missed the early part of the presentation, I encourage you to go back and take a look at that. The government has stopped doing any kind of surveys. They announced this probably a couple years ago. So they're not running the intercoastal and so forth. Government maps are, I will tell you that, off of Marco, I believe the last time I looked at a government map off of Marco Island here in Florida, there's still an island they show that's been gone now for probably 10 years. So SonarCharts are updated with the most recent information from what we get and from the logs. So most cases where I've looked personally, I've seen more accurate information on SonarChart and on Navionics in general. It has been more accurate than government charts. Now, mind you, that's not to say that the government may not have done a dredging and send out a survey vote very quickly to do that, especially in very popular marinas, or I shouldn't say marinas, in industrial areas where we're doing a lot of commercial freights. But I feel pretty confident saying, yeah, SonarCharts is more accurate than government. Can I download the Navionics app to my Garmin charting device or not? Yes, Ron, you can download the Navionics app directly to your Droid, your iPhone, your iPad, or your Droid tablet. Just go to either Google Play or to the App Store and you can download our app. Thomas, you guys got a lot of questions. Do you personally recommend any Android tablets to use? Any of them really work, Thomas. It's really just a question of, what works best for you. What tablet do you have? Or what are you a fan of? I mean, I know some Droid people hate Apple and Apple fans hate Droid. I really don't have a preference. I kind of like my mobile phone, but if I'm on my boat, I love the iPad. I love having the bigger screen. What is the easiest option for updating a Navionics chip and a Furuno? On a Furuno, John, the more modern Furunos do not take a Navionics chart. So I'm assuming you've got an older Furuno. If it's a classic chart, sadly, there's no way to update that because the media is no longer available. If you are purchasing a data from Furuno directly, I can't give you an honest answer to that. I have not done that. There is no way that I'm aware of to update that. Hopefully that changes soon with Furuno, but if you do have a classic chart, which is kind of that big blocky in small areas, sadly, what's on there, I think, is the last. And I want to say that's probably about 10 years old now. Oh, one more thought, John. If you do find those charts, they're probably costing about $600 now. You're better off just buying a new plotter and getting a chart for $199 than spending $600 on a chart, especially if you need multiple areas. Stefano, what happens if you lose your depth during navigation? I'm assuming you mean during recording logs. If you lose your depth, once that information comes to Navionics, we segment that out. They actually look at all those logs and they say, okay, he lost depth, or this looks very strange. It doesn't match to what's there. They very much take safety into consideration, where if there's a 50-foot hole and you're showing 2 foot, they're going to look at that and go, that's a little dramatic. We might change it by 10 foot. The next person that goes over that, if it is 2 foot, they're going to change it again. So they're always taking safety in consideration. If bottom's lost, that part of that log is thrown out because they're not going to just make something up. They want to use the best data they can. Mike, I have an older standard Horizon chart plotter which uses a CMAP card. There's a way to get Navionics onto my chart plotter. Not on the older standard Horizons, Mike, unfortunately. Standard Horizon is now using Navionics, but the older ones, unless there's a software update I'm not aware of, I can't speak 100% to it. I would check the Standard Horizon website, but I do not believe that there is a way to do that. But check their website on the older plotters. I don't think that there is. Can I have work on my Garmin? A lot of Garmin people wanting to run Navionics. But again, by all means, please let Garmin know. We'd love to be able to help you with that, but currently the best we can offer you is the mobile and the iPad app. Navionics area charted for Puerto Rico. Same question there from Alfred. Dennis, I have an older Navman 5000. Wow. Can your app be configured for it? Captain Denny. Captain, sadly, no. Again, that's one of those with the media that we can no longer get. That media, when I say media, I'm referring to the little card, is no longer available. So there's no way to do that. As far as the app connecting to it, that's only on the plotters that have Wi-Fi. So if you've got a newer plotter that has Wi-Fi, you're able to do the plotter sync. If it does not, if it's a Lowrance, you can buy a Go Free. If it's someone else, sadly, no. Navionics does work with Simrad, Kevin. Correct. Depending on the Simrad unit you have, you can pretty much run any chart that we offer. Mark, does Navionics work with Standard Horizon CP190? Mark, I don't want to hop off and check our compatibility guide, but if you go to navionics.com and scroll down to the bottom, you can click on the compatibility guide, and that will give you a full list of the plotters that we run on. Dick wants to know, sequence on plotter to get the purple line suggesting recommended route. Dick, I'm not exactly sure your question, but we do have recommended routes on all of the charts, and you're correct, it is a purple line. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, but you are correct on that. What is the margin of error from the location of the plotter? Anonymous viewer, come on, anonymous viewer. We got to have a name here so we can pick on you. That's a good question. Don't have the answer to that. I don't think there's a consistent answer, and if there is, I'd be afraid to give it to you because I think depending on the chart plotter and how good that GPS is, it could vary. I've seen mine spot on. I've seen it off. I mean, I run a Ray Marine. I've seen it pretty much spot on most times, or at least within 10 feet. But I don't really have an exact answer for you. John, where can we find the key legend for all the icons? Good question, John. The best thing to do is take a look at, if you've got the Navionics app, go down to tap on the screen and act like you're going to place a waypoint. It'll come up and it'll say edit map. Click on edit map and you're going to open up all those icons and you can sort through it. That's the fastest and easiest way to go through it. Barry, can I load hot maps onto a laptop and work with it to use it? Yes, Barry, makes a lot of sense. Currently, no, there's no way to do a planning software on your laptop. We do have what we offer, which is called the web app. If you go to navionics.com, you can click on the top banner. In fact, I actually have it pulled up here. Let's see if I share screen here real quick. All right, so I'm going to share it here real quick. So this is the Navionics app. Just go to navionics.com. This is our charting for everywhere around the world. So if you want to check out spots, this is a great way to do it. We do not give lat longs, so for planning purposes on that, you won't be able to do it, but at least you can take a look at chart areas and then get an idea of where you want to go. So this is on the Navionics web app. Chris, I fished the Gulf Coast. Which chart would give me the best information for the price? I've been looking at the Navionics Plus. Chris, the hard question to answer without knowing a little bit more. Depending on the plotter, I would look again at our chart compatibility guide. If you're fairly computer literate, the Navionics Plus is great. You can download, you get the whole US and Canada for $199, and you can download, anywhere you want. If you're just fishing the Gulf Coast, you might want to look at a brand new chart called the Navionics Plus Regions. It's a large region that has fresh and salt water and has the SonarCharts pre-programmed on it for you for $149. If you can run a platinum chart, by all means, grab platinum. I mean, that's going to give you 3D pictures of marinas, the satellite overlay. I mean, that's what I run. If you can run a platinum, by all means, run the platinum. Otherwise, Navionics Regions is probably what I would push you to if you're just doing a regional area. Bruce, we better use the iPad on water than buy Garmin, etc. Do they have marina holders to save iPad from jarring while underway? So, Bruce, I'm going to avoid that question. Obviously, speaking of Navionics, hell yeah, use your iPad until Garmin actually runs one of our charts. But what I would tell you is with the iPad, you can get a life-proof case. So buy a life-proof. That's one of my personal favorites. Sea Sucker actually makes a really nice mount, an inexpensive mount that you can put onto your case and attach to the boat. I've used that in 5-6 foot seas and it holds wonderful. So I'd suggest some type of a life-proof case or an otter box, and then get a Sea Sucker mount, attach it, and I think that'll work great for what you want to do. In fact, that's actually what I use on my upper station on my boat. Okay, then to use Navionics, I would then use a smartphone application if I have a Garmin system. That's correct, Ed. Currently for Garmin, the only one is our app. Ike, any experience with Navionics app paired with Garmin GPS receiver? A lot of Garmin questions. Nope, sorry, Ike. Can't help you on that one as of today other than sending in logs. Let's see, it's 7:52. I'm going to keep going because I've got a lot of questions. As long as people keep staying on, I'll keep going as long as I can here. Jeff, is it true that I can't transfer my routes that I build in my tablet to my plotter unless I've subscribed to the freshest data? Jeff, that is correct. You do need freshest data for plotter sync to work. Depending on what your plotter is, whether it's Raymarine or you'll have the new software release here coming for Navico, you just have to go under your files and take a look at under the files and look to our card and transfer them over. But you do need freshest data for that to work. When navigating a route, the compass keeps reverting to north up. We talked about that one. Wind arrows. I'm not sure what that is. Heat question. Bob, what is the plotter you recommend that has all these updates and features? So far, heard neither Hummingbird nor Garmin. So Bob, with updates, Garmin knows, we mentioned Garmin does not run Navionics currently. With Hummingbird, you can update your chart anytime you want. So Hummingbird there's no Wi-Fi currently to do a plotter sync to be able to update your chart or transfer waypoints on Hummingbird, or the GeoNavs as they had. You can update your chart anytime you like, though. You just need to take your chart out, pop it into a computer, and update the chart with the freshest data. So no matter what plotter you have, you can always update your chart online with Navionics. Just not all of them have Wi-Fi yet, and I'm sure when Hummingbird gets that available, I would think that they would add the freshest data component with plotter sync to that. But currently for Hummingbird, you do have to plug it in the computer. Good question, Bob. How much is the app? Ron wants to know. Ron, on the iPhone, your mobile device, $10. On the iPad or the Android is 50, and then again after that it's half price, but 50, and then you get the full version with HD. Great clarity on the iPad. What is the easiest and fastest way to find our coordinates in case we need to get help from CTO? Fastest way, if you've got if you're looking at the plotter, hopefully you've got it right on top of the plotter there with your GPS coordinates. If you're using the app, tap the screen. You'll tap the screen, a little question will come up. Tap on that question, you'll have your lat longs right at the top of the app. How do you get a discount if you're CTO or Boat US member? Good question, Hank. We are going to have some offers in future webinars where we're going to give away a few apps, but sadly, we do not have the ability to do a discount on an app. I would love to be able to do that for CTO members, as you guys are great. I mean, the amount of people that signed up for this and are still on here is fantastic. So I would love to be able to, but sadly, Apple wants their money, and we're just not able to do a discount program. But the moment we have it, you'll know about it. I can tell you that we are working on things with CTO all the time. So they're great partners of ours, and we're going to continue to try to develop programs that work great for you as members, and try to give you discounts as we can. So stay a loyal CTO member. Tom, how good is the tide info and what is the source? Always worried about Florida marinas. How good is the tide info? I've had no issues with the tide info at all. If I get up further into bracket or up further into the creeks and you've got a strong wind against tide, certainly that can slow it down. But I've really never seen it more than an hour from what it shows. The Navionics chart adjust up and down with the tide on the plotter. They do not. That actually has to go with the water level adjustment, so it does not. Your charts are mean low tide on the plotter. Kevin, I have the new S2009 Simrad and NSS 16, and the contour of my plotter shows more contours than what is on my Navionics. Kevin, I'm not sure what you're asking. What I would suggest is go to depending what chart you have. If you've got a Navionics Plus, make sure you've updated it. If it's a Regions or a Platinum, go to your chart options and turn on Fish and Chip. Again, a very popular question that what you see sometimes on the Navionics app, SonarCharts is on there, and it does have more detail. So you do need to turn on the fishing chip, and you'll have the most detail you could possibly want. Let's see, Joe, I have a 4-year-old Navionics memory card, which I need to update. Is the app a separate purchase or do the two come together? Again, Joe, as I mentioned earlier, sadly, Apple and Google Play want their money, so we do have to sell them separately. The good news is you're $10 and you're good to go. What does the water level slider, what does the water level slider do again? So the water level slider, Bert, is where it changes the, this is only on the app, but this is where it adjusts the water. So if the water is 10 feet high, you can adjust it and everything modifies. If it's 10 feet low, you adjust it down, and that then adjusts all your contours and your spot soundings to whatever depth you drop it to. Chris, what is the best shallow water adjustment or water adjustment for fishing? Chris, tough question. I mean, that really depends on what you're fishing for. You know, if you're running, cobia, you might want to highlight 23 to 40 feet. You're doing, sharks, you might want to highlight 120 to 180, if you're up north from Macos. Really depends on what you're fishing for. Tom, best thought process to plan a 150-mile trip, Amelia to Charleston. Tom, can't help you with that one, other than I would, say take a look at the web app or take a look at the Navionics app and try doing a few various dock-to-dock auto routes. That'll help you the best. Mike, I have an older Standard Horizon that uses a CMAP card. Is there a way to get? Mike, I think I answered that one already on Standard Horizon. Sadly, no, unless there's a software update that I am not aware of. Answer your phone. Is that a Wahoo on the wall behind you? Oh boy, that one was put up there a while. No, Todd, actually, you're out of Naples. Actually, that is a king mackerel behind me. And as a matter of fact, that was a tournament that we won actually out of Marco Island, fishing the SK, my buddy Ozzy Fisher and we went out to fish out for kings for one of the SK events. I guess this is back probably now 5-6 years ago, but that is a 56.34 on the back of my wall. We actually caught 256 that day. Good eyes. If I have the Plus chip, is the app version free? Sadly, Joe, no, you do have to purchase the app. The web app is free, but the mobile apps you do have to pay for. Charles, Robert Guzman asked the following question in the chat window. Sounds pretty important. How do I report stone spot area sticking out of water level? Extremely dangerous where others are ground all this. Okay. So Charles, very good question that came from Roberto. In order to report those type of problems or anything new that's come up, two ways. One, if you've got the mobile app, you can click on that, don't get right next to it, but as close as you can, and tap the screen on your mobile app, tap the question and hit edit map, and then add that rock. That will then go to all plotters that will update with the charts when somebody does a freshest data, and that'll again also go to the phone. So anytime anybody updates their app or their chart, what you added on a community edit will go to that. The other way to do it is to get the lat long. With that lat long, if you go to our website and click on what we call a DR report or discrepancy report and add in the lat long, we can do it that way. So we appreciate anything like that. Obviously, we all want to make sure everybody's safe out there. So if you've got something like that, please, by all means, let us know. Send us the lat long and we can verify that. Thank you, Charles and Roberto, for your help with that. If you can add that, that would be fantastic. It'd make it better for everybody. And that's really what all the community logging and the community edits are all about. Thank you. Joe, is it true that I can't transfer my routes to my plotter that were built in my tablet unless I address that one? You must have freshest data to be able to do the transfers. My Simrad is about 6 years old. How do I update it? Not sure, Thomas, I understand that one other than buying a Simrad. Updating the chart, plug it in to our computer and then to your computer and go to our website and you can update it that way. But as far as updating the Simrad, if you mean software, it's on the Navico website. If you are looking to buy a new plotter, that you need to talk to an installer about. Debbie asked about wind arrows. Does Navionics have live weather data without XM? No, Navionics does not have live weather as far as right now. The app that we have is the best source, and that's coming from government sources and weather stations and so forth. But an actual like XM of a storm coming in or something, no, unfortunately not as of today. Mike, I have an older standard horizon that uses CMAP. We talked about that one, right? I think that's the same from Mike. Joe, we use this app on our fireboat along with a chart plotter. We like Navionics. It's so user-friendly with multiple users. My question is, when you are zoomed in on the chart, the boat icon doesn't follow along, and you need to zoom out to reset. Is there a way where it follows along zoomed in? I'm not exactly sure of your question, Joe. What I believe you're asking is how to make sure when you're doing a sonar chart live, if your boat stays where you are. On the app itself, probably not going to be able to see this too well, but on the app itself, at the bottom left, there is like a little arrow icon. On that arrow icon, that'll always bring your chart view directly to your boat. If it's on the plotter, it should be right there, in which case you got to hit, if it's a Raymarine, you hit the little ship. If it's Hummingbird, you hit exit. If it's Navico, I think you hit a Lowrance, you hit exit or home, and it brings it to you, and you're not going to be able to see this. But my best guess, that little arrow icon down there, tap that, and it brings you right back to your boat. I hope that helps, Joe. Do you cover St. Martin, can only find Antigua? Yes, we do have St. Martin. Make sure you've got the right chart for that area, but we do cover St. Martin. George, does the app include the cost of the Navionics chip? Again, George, nope. We must give, fortunately, Apple and Google Play their share. Move a little quicker here, guys. Robert, are the icons shown universal or Navionics specific? Depends on the icon. The buoys are universal specific. Some of the icons are related just to Navionics. But most of it we try to keep universal, so no matter where you are from the world, you can understand what that icon is. Dan, where did you catch fish hanging behind you? Lat longs will not be provided for that fish. However, that was caught, as I mentioned, out of Marco Island. Please assure people they should know how to read paper charts. Electronic charts fail. An honest viewer, it's always good to have backup. Whether you've got an iPad or a chart or you want paper charts, having extra is never a bad idea. Mike, I have a Simrad with Wi-Fi. Does the plotter update itself when you get Wi-Fi, or do you have to do it manually? Mike, I haven't done it myself, but you are correct. If you're at a marina and you've got Wi-Fi, I believe if you access the Go Free store through your plotter, you can automatically download a software update in that fashion. Check the Navico, the Lowrance or Simrad website, and that would give you a better answer. I believe it can be done. I know Raymarine also has that same feature with you can download updates through Wi-Fi. So I believe you can. I think, again, it's just you have to go to the, in Simrad, for example, you do have to go through their Go Free store and then get it that way. But I have not done that personally. Do you have to turn sonar logging on and off manually, or is the logging running automatic on a Hook 5? On a Hook 5, Paul, sadly, we're not able to use the data on a Hook 5. There's no Wi-Fi, so we're not able to connect it with a Go Free. And as of today, the Hook 5 is not going to run SonarChart Live. It'll be the HDS Gen 3s and the Simrad units and the Elite TIs. Wish I had a better answer for you, Paul, but as of today, not on the Hook 5. I'm sorry, my friend. Jeff, is it true that I can transfer my waypoints, freshest data? Yep, need freshest data. Do you need to purchase Nav Plus for both iPad and iPhone, or will the iPad purchase cover both? David, no, you do need to purchase both for the mobile and for the iPad because of the programming. If you buy an iPad and try to put it on your iPhone, it won't work. If you buy an iPhone and put it on your iPad, it's going to be about that big and about a third of the screen of your iPad, and it's going to be worthless. So sadly, no, you do have to buy both. Again, fortunately, it's only $10 for the iPhone or Droid phone itself. Why the issue with Garmin? I want to buy new. John, got to talk to Garmin on that one. I mean, we constantly have chats with them every year. That's really above my level. That's a Garmin question. I would think Garmin would want to do what the consumers ask for, but sadly, I don't work there, so I would email Garmin and ask them, hey, when are you going to work on Navionics? Or when's Navionics going to work on Garmin? Can you sync the app from iPad to the Raymarine chart plotter? Yes, you can, Steve Hill. You can sync them through the Wi-Fi when you've got our app. You are able to, that's how you do your route transfers, your plotter sync, and update charts through the app. Matt, what is the process of updating a platinum chart on a CF card? I went too far on my questions here. There we go. So Matt, to update the CF card, you do need a CF card reader. They should be available at a Radio Shack or a Best Buy. At that point, you've got to plug it into an adapter. If you buy I'll make a, you got a platinum chart. Contact help@navionics.com. See if maybe they can't help you out with that one. Most times you've got to buy the adapter for a CF card if you're going to keep it on a platinum chart. We do offer the CF adapters with an update for CF, but I imagine you want to keep platinum. So you've got to buy the adapter at either Best Buy or a Radio Shack or something like that. But email help@navionics.com. They might be able to give you a better solution than what I'm able to. Jack, I have a Lowrance every year when I go back to Canada. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording here because I'm sure people don't want to hear me answering questions for another 45 minutes if they watch this. So I'm going to end the recording session and keep talking to everybody here.